Alright, welcome back. Hope everyone's having a lovely day, a lovely night, wherever you're from. And real quick, before we get started, as always, I want to give a lovely shout out to the channel members on this channel. So thank you so much to these lovely commanders here that you see on screen. Thank you guys so much for your guys' constant generosity and your support to me as always. It really means a lot to me, so thank you guys so much. If you guys are actually interested in becoming a lovely commander yourself, if you are interested in any of these cute and lovely emotes, the loyalty crown badges, if you want a special role in the Discord, make sure to join the Discord. But as always, if you choose to do so, thank you so much. Just remember, that's not the only way that you can support me. Just watching the content like you are right now is truly the best way. Liking, subscribing, and commenting, everything really does help. So thank you guys so much. And for today's video, just like I mentioned last video, I am ready to do a priority video. I think a lot of you have already seen a lot of creators make a priority video for all the Ava units. I figured I'd give my little bit of insight, my opinion, and throw my little hat in the ring just to give my opinion. Because let's be real here, there are a lot of units right now, and I broke it down last time, but when we look, there are plenty of units right now. We got Ray Tentative Name, Asuka Wille, we have Mari again, and we have Ray again, and Asuka again from the Wave 1. So there are 5 banners to choose from. So from a waifu perspective, I'm not going to talk about because you're going to pull for who you want. If you really like Asuka, you're going to get both versions of Asuka. If you like Ray, you're going to get both versions of Ray. If you like Mari, you're going to get Mari, you know? Or if you're a fan of everything, you're just going to get it all, right? So the way I want to break it down is start talking about the priority list from a meta perspective because, you know, for most people, sometimes they just want to pull for meta, and that's perfectly fine. Everyone plays differently. However, I do want to stress that when I'm talking about these units, I think it'll be a good way to say it since there's going to be basically a list of 5 characters. The first 3 that I'm going to talk about from the lowest priority are technically tier 1 units. Tier 1 units in Nikke are still very good. I feel like they all have their own usage. You can still get through campaign, so you can still get through content no problem. And I think honestly, when it comes to this collab, I feel like it had the most longevity in terms of the units. I feel like Shift Up found a really good balance between really good units just to have good longevity for, because even some units, like even from near like 2B and stuff, like I see myself using less, but I ended up using a lot of the Evangelion units a lot more. So I feel like that's just kind of like a good way, like a good indicator, I guess, of how well these units are lasting. And I think that's a good thing because when it comes to longevity, I feel like if you're pulling for something meta, you hope that it lasts a while before it gets power crept. And obviously some units already got power crept, but that still doesn't change how good they are. That being said though, when we talk about it, like I mentioned, the first 3 I'm going to talk about are tier 1. The last 2 are going to be about, I think, a 0.5 tier, which is still amazing, by the way. So let's get down to it and let's talk about the first unit. And in my opinion, the first unit that is going to be the lowest priority is going to be Ray Tentative Name. And I feel like for some people who obviously paid attention to the kit, it's not really going to be that big of a surprise. The reason for that is because her skill 1 is directly tied to Asuka Wille. It's literally only meant to stack count of the anti-AT field that Asuka has, as well as affecting units by annihilation state, which is literally just for Asuka Wille. No other units. That's already one major red flag about this character, and her skill 2 is also something that's just kind of iffy in my opinion, because when it comes to this MG heating up speed going up 100%, one problem I have with this is that you'll see, you know, some buffs, you know, for like Crown, Rappy Red Hood, you'll see some damage increases because of this, but not by much. It's not that necessary. And when it comes to characters like Ludmilla, who also have an MG, honestly, her ramp up speed is very quick. So I feel like it's very, very niche in my opinion. And that attack, caster's attack for 10 seconds is just not that great. That 10% at skill 7 is not worth it in my opinion. And that's kind of a bigger sentiment that I have a problem with this character, is that I feel like my investment was not worth it. When we get skill resets, I'm definitely just going to leave her at 444. In my opinion, it's not worth going further because the amount of damage gain that Asuka has, in my opinion, is not worth the investment. But when it comes to her burst skill, this is where I feel like it could have balanced out. But attack damage goes up 31% for 10 seconds, attack goes up 54.72% of the caster's attack for 10 seconds, affects all enemies, deals 878.32% of the final attack as burst skill damage. It's not bad by any means, but it could have been a lot better, especially for self buffs, because I think a lot of people have noticed that there's this kind of like similar thing going on with a lot of units, where they're getting in a lot of self buffs to be really strong. I feel like if they just did a little bit more on her attack state, I feel like it could have been a lot better, but that's still really good for what it's worth. I just feel like she's too tied to Asuka to make it more worth it in my opinion. And when we get to the next character, this is where it's going to get a little funny, because once again, I am going to recommend the other Ray to be the last priority that you get. So second to last priority is going to be here for Ray. Once again though, this one's going to be a little bit different though, because she's not bad by any means, but there are some things that I really want to talk about here that are kind of interesting. Now, in terms of fire, she's going to be great for the fire mono, elemental damage teams. But one thing that I found interesting is in her skill 2, damage dealt to shields goes up almost 600% at a level 6 for her skill 2. But that is really specific towards only some units. Not all units will have a shield, so I feel like that's one section that's already kind of iffy. The best part of her kit is no doubt the attack damage and attack of the caster's attack that goes up for fire-coated allies. She is a great buffer for fire-coated allies. I'm not saying she's bad by any means. However, when we come to the reality of what the fire teams are right now, especially counting for even Evangelion, when we look at fire, there are some really good things happening right now. We have Alice, we have a good support with D-Killer Wife, Rappy Red Hood, Modernia, Grave, Treasure, Drake now, we have Asuka. We got some really good things going, and honestly, even for the other units that are really bad, they still wouldn't see much gain just because they're not that great. But that's what I mean though, it's not necessarily important to have Ray just to buff fire units because fire's already eating good, so it's not that big of a priority in my opinion. You do what you want, obviously. Now, the third highest priority in my opinion is actually going to be a little bit of a surprise for some people. That is actually going to be Mari, because I think Mari has a better use case in my opinion than a lot of the other ones we talked about, mostly because Electric needs some help when it comes to burst 2s. Burst 2s don't really have much of a chance right now in terms of Electric, and she's still great for her skills for what she does. Once again though, with her skill 1 damage dealt to shield is kind of iffy, but she does offer Pierce, she gains attack buffs and attack buffs for the allies, and her GPS guided missile, which is kind of like a barrage for her burst skill, it really does help clear. So for a burst 2 Electric with 20 seconds, I actually think that she has more use case, and I feel like I use her a lot more as like a flex. And if she is your only burst 2 you have right now, I mean still, I think this is a tier 1 character and I still think that she does a great job for what she does. And piercing has become a lot more common, so I feel like she synergizes with a lot of units. It's just a matter of Electric also needing help, so it's really viable to at least have this unit when it comes to at least a burst 2. And obviously it's not going to be a surprise when we start talking about the final 2 units, and what it comes down to is going to be the elemental needs. The second highest priority that you should go for is going to be the OG version of Asuka. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, once again, Fire's doing great. So this doesn't discount her by any means just because Fire's doing great. That means that you shouldn't have her. But from a needs perspective compared to Wind, which I will talk about in a little bit, Fire's doing fine. Do I recommend getting both of these Asukas? Absolutely. The only reason other than Asuka doing a little bit better, or the new version of Asuka doing better, is that it comes down to Fire doing well in comparison to Wind, because this version of Asuka is an absolute beast who's held a lot for solo rate. She's been doing great. Damage dealt to shield, great self-attack buffs. Not only that, but the damage and strong element helps fire-coated allies. Her burst though is where it gets really serious. Affects self, gains pierce for 25 seconds, attack damage goes up 130.84% for 10 seconds, recovers 2.88% of attack damage as HP over 10 seconds, and hit rate goes up 92% for 10 seconds. So she's a clear beast. She's doing great. All those self buffs are ridiculous and she's doing amazing. I remember the whole triple S tier Asuka drama with Sky and then Pride and stuff. That was ridiculous. But I still think that she's great and that she should be your second highest priority pick, or even number 1 if you want. It doesn't matter, because when I'm talking about the other version of Asuka that we just got, I actually think she's going to be a lot more useful because Wind needs help. And that's not just like being dramatic or anything. When we go look at Wind, the reality is that a lot of the units here aren't that super great. Obviously, we have the bunnies, we got SBS, but other than that, Sustain with Summer Sakura is just not there yet. Mana helps buff SBS. Noah's mostly for PvP, and Summer Rosanna actually kind of fell off a lot, unfortunately, but I love her. So in my opinion, it's really useful that you have Asuka Violet because she is going to be great for Wind, and she's going to be an important addition, and I feel like not having her is going to be one of the reasons why the solo raid is going to be a little bit interesting for some people. But like I mentioned, her annihilation state based on her skill 1 and stuff, this all goes in tandem because you need her to burst. She can't be an off burst because you need her to burst in order for her skill 1 to actually work. And also her skill 2 is affected by annihilation, so that's kind of crazy. So you need her to burst for any of her kit to work. So just be aware of that. But the amount of damage that she does as a character is actually insane. They gave her a lot more self buffs too. It's absolutely insane what they do. But for a Wind elemental character, I feel like she's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to use her in solo raid. It's definitely going to be an interesting one, and I feel like those are going to be the 2 highest priority you should go for. In my opinion, I think they really did favor Asuka overall between both collabs, but I think Mari also has her place. But overall, I think they did a great job with the collab in general when it comes down to just like having a balance. I feel like not all of it's necessary by any means, but they're still great for what they are. Even if you want to pick them up, they're not just like kind of like fodder or anything like that. They're not like really bad. And I still see use case in them, so I still think it evens out. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. You know, let me know what my hot take was. Did I screw something up for you? Do you have a different opinion? Let me know. Everyone has a different perspective, and I just wanted to give my own. So I hope you enjoyed this one. But that is going to be it from me. So I hope you guys have a lovely day, lovely night, wherever you're from. And as always, thank you so much for the constant support. Take care, and have a good one.